I definitely feel like in a lot of your like classic keynote speaker inspirational, look how I made $1 million in my first year, and I'm like, I don't care, I want to hear about how you failed and didn't eat for a week.
What's your like relationship with, burnout, mental health when it comes to like working lots and being your own manager? And I feel like I should sit down here, like lie down like a therapist session, because I've got a lot to say.
Because we're living in a world where capitalist world where the more work you put in, the more successful you are. The more time you put into it, the more successful you are. So it's just that whole like work hard, play hard, but you gotta rest hard too. How millennials are just so anxious, and this like their mental health is completely crashed because of the expectations they've brought on themselves, where they feel like they need to overachieve.
I definitely have been trying to cultivate more kindness and gentleness with myself, and I do really think that unless we're doing that to ourselves, it's hard for us to do that well for other people too.
I just work hard and just keep going until I get the job done, because I want to do it to the best of my ability and give the customers the best. And so my struggle is that I don't take time for myself.
Yeah, my struggle is probably I take too much time. I don't know, I really value lifelines more than deadlines.
It was really hard for me to separate myself from the business, and I was so passionate and loved it so much that I would kind of do anything. Like I remember I'd be in a movie with a friend and then get a call in the middle and have to leave the movie and leave my friend there because something happened at work. So there's really no boundaries. There was no boundaries, and I would constantly burn out all the time, and there became this kind of toxic culture in my head, or even in society, where it's like it glamorizes kind of hustle culture and push through the thing. And while I agree that sometimes, especially at the beginning, you do have to hustle a bit and push through, now I'm kind of the opposite approach, where I'm just like, no, I have to set boundaries, and I have to put boundaries up and make sure that I have my own time, because the business can't be everything, as much as I love it.
It's like it was self-realization like that happened, that you can live a life and not be depressed, because it was so normal, because I was born that way with the dreams and everything. So normal to just be depressed, that you're just like, oh yeah, you'll be happy, right? You have a party, you see your friends, have family dinner, you can dance with your son, you're happy for those moments, and the other moments you're like, life, slap in the face it is, like, and you go through saying that, but then but then doing all this work on myself, I noticed that you can actually be happy for that time, and you don't need to feel that sadness, and like, you can see everything that comes, and if like, you lose your job, there's a reason you lost your job. You weren't meant to be there. Life has something else planned for you. There's this whole system of natural life that you can live, but because we believe that we should have something else, that the world is something else, we put this unnecessary pressure on ourselves.
For me, I like to have my art accessible to everyone, not just for the institution itself, which sometimes can be quite tricky. I like the idea of being able to talk about mental health to people who do have it and laugh, and people who don't and they want to know more about it. It's just like having an open discussion.
We have this vision for how we want to make things more sustainable and affordable and more accessible to other people as well. So just being able to do that is so cool to us.
I value being marginalized and discriminated. I used to think that was quite, I didn't like it. And I think of non-binary women, LGBTQ, even women in general, you're automatically underestimated. I grew up in Flaxmere, a place notorious for gangs, Mongrel Mob, Hastings, very well known. And the suicide rates were high. I just valued existing. I think as a person who's marginalised, the greatest testimony of why they should continue is their very existence. That they're meant to be here because they're here. Like, they don't have to be confident, or they don't have to be protesting for their rights. If you're breathing, you're existing, you have purpose, and you're here. Let that be evidence.
Being diligent and being honest and giving all that you have and not holding back, because we're trying to do something good here, and so I'm going to give my all. And even though when I give my all and I'm so tired and I've been up all night, you know, you're going to think self-love and give it back to yourself, and then get up again, do it all over again.
So I'm going to have a school, and it's going to be on a hill, and it's like this whole Greek columns, like got the columns, you know, that big like museum looking thing, like literally the museum on the hill. I'm going to have a big school and X-Abilities Academy, designed to teach people emotional intelligence and extend themselves to entrepreneurships, or just self-control, or just in a way where they can and live with their disability and be able to progress through life, persuading people that they're normal. Doing whatever they want with this talent they can, but knowing that they can go out there and be whatever they want.
I have had as kind of that guiding purpose since my existential crisis back in high school, which is, have I contributed to making things better in some way? And for me in particular, it's, have I contributed to making the world a bit more equitable?
As I grow older, I realised that actually life is quite simple, and it can be quite simple. And so honestly, the simplest thing, like having a cookie with milk, with friends, with loved ones, and sharing that love, that's what brings me joy.
It's hard, I think, in any freelance industry where you, and I don't really like the term your brand, but I am my business. My business ends with me, and therefore, like being at this conference on the weekend, I'm not just able to go separate from being me as a professional, because I'm always having to be me as a professional. And that can be really exciting, but it can also be really exhausting.
When we told people about it, they kind of like doubted us because we didn't have a lot of credibility, but we also doubted ourselves a lot. And so it was kind of just this two-way, you know, like negative or kind of colliding. In some sense, that self-doubt still hasn't like disappeared at all. It's kind of just like, in some sense, like escalated now that we have like more responsibilities and more people are now like watching our work.
I think back then, you know, this was almost a decade ago, there was a lot of challenges for me because I was very young, I was female, and I was Asian. They did pose a lot of barriers at the time, which I do not actually experience now, maybe because I've got a track record and the experience. But back then, like even getting my first shop, real estate agents wouldn't even look at me. They didn't want to, the shop that I originally got on Wellesley Street West, they declined me and said that food wasn't allowed to go in there. And then like a month later, the next door neighbor had food, and I said, well, how come I'm not allowed to have food then? So what I actually did was I gave my proposal to a male friend. He put the proposal in, and that's how I got that shop.
When you're studying your PhD, typically you're like somewhere between the age of like 23 and 26, or maybe even older. That's the time that women might start having children, and there's no programs in place for them to be able to study their PhD full time and, you know, start raising a child for their family. All these small things that people don't take into consideration that makes it harder for us to like move into those kinds of spaces.
One of the hard things at the beginning was not knowing if I had something to contribute. Like starting an idea, especially in the early stages when it's a sort of fuzzy, formless thing. It's really easy for this fuzzy, formless thing for someone else to look at it and be like, no, that's the same as that. Or that's the same as that thing. Like, you should just go work with them, or you should go do that. And I had that a few times, and I'd kind of look at the thing and be like, no, I really don't think that's the same. Or like, I don't agree with how they're doing that. But I got that from so many people so many times that I had doubt along the way of like, okay, well, maybe I'm not doing anything different. Like, the way that each of us does something, it will be different and unique because we're different people. I think it's really important that you give it a chance, like you give it enough time with the thing to start to let it take shape.
Confidence for me, because I've got no background in business. I don't know anything about, I didn't even know how to save money. Money would come in and it would go out. So just making my idea into fruition and actioning it. I didn't know how to do the how. I just knew what. And so it was really cool to have Shaq like help us in that area and really like drive it.
I think now that it's been 3 months, our biggest challenges are handling finance, probably one. That's my area. I mean, when you grow up doing a budget for yourself, you only earn a certain amount. You only know how to handle a certain amount.
I've gotten a few clients. I've gotten a few corporations that have been willing to take this step forward and to learn about disabilities and mental health and emotional intelligence and universal design. But then I thought about it and I was like, why isn't it streaming in with unreasonable numbers of clients? Why isn't it? Because this help is needed. I'm like, and then I realized I wasn't marketing. And then I wasn't asking people. I wasn't sending out emails. I was even scared to tell people, hey, follow my Instagram. And so that was a challenge that took me stepping back. And it's like if you painted for too long, eventually that painting is just going to turn to a complete different image. Like you got to step back and then come back and realize, oh, that painting actually looked really nice. I don't need to do anything with it.
There was next to no support system at that time. I was only 19 when the idea was born, and like everyone thought it was a very strange idea. Back, it was 9 years ago, it's almost a decade ago. There wasn't anything like a milk and cookie bar like ours. And the name Mustache, is a very weird name. They're like, I don't know, I think you should sell sandwiches. I think you should sell other things because you're not going to be able to make enough money just from selling milk and cookies. I was very adamant that this is the direction I want to go, and I was passionate about doing that one thing well.
As a wider support, my mum, my sister, my previous partner, who is also a photographer, and he's now a journalist, and we did a lot of work together. There were times when my health was bad, he would drive me to and from a shoot because I couldn't drive because of being on tramadol, and then I'd do the photography. I'd pay him to edit the photos. He would drive me to hospital after the shoot for a kidney infection. So being able to have the support like that, all of my friends that have ever, there's been times where I've had really big work weeks around festivals and things like that, who have come and cooked me dinner.
I think one of the most valuable types of support has been friends and family. And there's been lots of moments along the way where, I'm glossing over all the things I tried that didn't work. But for each of those, when you try a thing and it doesn't work, at least for me, there were moments where I was like, okay, well, do I have anything to contribute? Has it all been done before? And so that's where having conversations with friends and family and getting their support has been really helpful for me as a human.
Yeah. This is basically a website for creatives, and you can get job opportunities. And one of the programs that they're doing is called Toipoto. Basically, it's a 9-month program where they help creatives basically just learning about the ins and outs of it. So that's been really helpful. So that's coming from the outside. So I didn't know them beforehand, but yeah, every month we get a lecture on different type of how to, impact your social media. And I've also got my own personal mentor, which is great. And really, really handy because I didn't know anything. It's really shocking that I haven't ever learned anything, but I guess it's good to learn now while I'm just coming out of school, which is great. Yeah.
I think a lot of our friends were really supportive because they're our friends. They were our nice friends that we kind of knew would support us, but then there were friends, we had friends who own businesses. My mum who owns a business, and kind of asked her straight up, and she was very, supportive, but also you guys are studying as well. So there were reservations, but I think what did it for us was we actually went out and found our own support. We went to free community business workshops. That's where we met you. Just online, we had a look, and we even did Digital Boost. That's an online business platform, free. we just took advantage of all opportunities we could because we needed to upskill ourselves.
I remember the first time we had our prototype and we put it in the vacuum chamber at Rocket Lab, and we actually Peter Beck randomly came downstairs to watch us like do the test trial, and he happened to come down the first time that it worked. Like the times before that it had not worked, and we were standing there like, oh, he's watching. I hope the test goes well. And there's these like little like windows in the vacuum chambers, these tiny circles. There's like there's like 6 of them, but we were all like hovering over a little window just like this, and when it worked, we were all like cheering in Rocket Lab, and then Pete was like looking through the window, he's like, fuck me, that's so cool. And we like got it on video, and so sometimes we, like Max and Will, when we achieve something, they'll replay Pete saying fuck me. There's that one moment where it worked, but like they didn't see the like 100 times before that where it didn't work. So when it finally does, it feels so great, and we're like, okay, it's progress, we're gonna keep going now because we did good. And it's still something I pinch myself is that I can pay my bills doing work I love, which is wild. Like it is awesome. It is definitely a wild thing to consider, and I do have to remind myself, I'm like, you're literally living your dream, and it's hectic.
People will come in saying, cool, yeah, we want to improve our team's performance. Like we want to optimize that. And we're like, okay, well, we do that, but also we've got their culture stuff. And there was a team we were working with where they started out very like, cool, we have these like performance targets and we got to hit them and all that. And then in the last meeting we had with them, a couple people in the team were like, oh, so I've noticed that the things I'm most interested in, like the insights I've been most interested in lately have been the collaboration and the well-being ones. And it like our whole team was delighted about that, because that's like, you know, I said it before, even if all you care about is performance, you have to care about the people side of things, because teams are how we get things done. So that was amazing to get people say like, yep, this matters, and let's spend some more time thinking about this and watching those insights.
I think something I'm proud about is that we're Māori Pasifika women business owners. Pasifika, especially in the media, gets so much rap for, well, actually the positive things that we're known for is good at sports and good at music or acting or things like that, performing arts. And I think being a Pasifika Māori businesswoman is something really unique, and it's something you don't really see very often. That's probably what makes me most proud, is because then we're a Māori Pasifika business, and that means a lot to us.
So I'm in a collective, Ahua Collective, and we did an exhibition in May, because it is a BIPOC queer Takatapui collective, and for me to be in an exhibition with them, and it was an exploration of identity, so it was all my own personal project, and that was the first time that I actually talked about my whakapapa, because I am Māori and I'm Welsh. And for me personally, I was very proud of it, not because I was happy with how it looked. I was proud of myself because I tapped into something that I haven't had before, and especially to other people as well.
So this t-shirt, actually, I designed this t-shirt. I went to like design school myself, and I during Moustache and designed this. This t-shirt is now in the Auckland Museum, and they've got some cookie jars there and a photo of me and a small blurb. And I just went in there and I was just like, wow, like what is life? Like I opened a cookie shop, and now we're in a museum as part of the history of Auckland. Like that just blew my mind. And you know, when you get stuck into the day-to-day business, like I'm like packing up the rubbish, putting the rubbish away, like mopping the floors, like it's not glamorous, but then you see yourself in the museum and it's just like, wow, like I am creating something that's bigger than myself.
Is there anything, before we close down, is there anything that you wanted to maybe add that I didn't ask, or I don't know, something comes to your mind that you like?
Pay your taxes. Yeah.